Welcome back to the Real Power Podcast. Today we got an awesome guest, Mr. Sean Mattrey. Is that how you pronounce your last name? Mattrey?
Yep, spot on.
Sean is the broker and owner of the Blueprint team over in Buffalo, New York. They are absolutely crushing the game, top team over in Western New York. And he's also a real estate investor, which I'm very excited to talk about his journey in real estate investing, his portfolio, what he's learned on that side of the business. And I just think there's going to be a ton of value in the show for the people watching. Sweet. So stick around to the end. There will be gems throughout the show, and you don't want to miss them. But, man, without further ado, Sean, thank you for being here, brother.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. Office is sweet. Drive wasn't bad. So,
Thanks, man.
no, pumped to be here. I'm super stoked we got this on the books.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
How did the journey of entrepreneurship, where did it start for Sean?
My mom's family owns a bowling alley. So I grew up in a family business, and that bowling alley still to this day. If you go in there, my grandparents are working, my mom is working, my uncles. So it's like a family run place. So
What's the name of the bowling alley?
It's Malwitz Island Lanes, right in Grand Island.
Okay.
But long story short, so like growing up, I just literally went to work every day with them, just doing odd jobs around the bowling alley. And so once I got a little bit older, like 17 or so, I started bartending and then saw the money you could make bartending and just continued that. I was lucky enough to start bartending all over like downtown Buffalo in popular bars and restaurants and things like that. So, always just saved money. And then where I would say entrepreneurship kind of took off was I was going to college, moved into this college house with 9 of my friends, started doing the math on like what we were paying in rent. And it was $400 a bedroom, so nothing crazy. But I'm like, this guy's making $3,600 a month doing nothing. Like we don't call this guy. We don't want to see this guy. So I was just like, holy shit. So I like Googled the address, and I don't know anything about real estate at the time. Like I just looked up and he bought the house for like 90 grand. I'm like, he literally paid this house off in like 2.5 years. Like this is nuts. So I went to Barnes & Noble and bought, it was like a Bigger Pockets book. It was just like Real Estate Investing 101, How to Make Money as a Landlord. Read that book, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then called my landlord and was like, hey, this is Sean. I'm one of your tenants. What am I missing? I'm like, you bought the house for this price. You bring in this amount of money. I'm like, there's got to be a catch here.
Yeah, what did he say?
He's like, no, there's no catch. Like, you should definitely get into this. He's like, you're the first college kid I've ever had call me about this. Like, you're definitely going down the right direction. So I bartended all throughout college, and I didn't care because it was like, my shift would start at 10, 11 o'clock. So I would be at the party and then I'd go to the bar and then the whole party would come to the bar. So it was kind of nice because I still got to enjoy that college experience.
Enjoy your young life, yeah.
But make money at the same time. So, in downtown Buffalo, and I'm sure just about everywhere, you can make a lot of money bartending if you're at the right places. So I was just stocking away money left and right. And the hardest part when you're bartending is getting pre-approved because, most of your money isn't on the books.
Cash is under the table, yeah.
So I was able to find a hard money lender in Texas that kind of like catered to that. It was people with good credit that had a substantial down payment, but they weren't necessarily concerned with, showing all of it on the books. And
did you find that connection through Bigger Pockets?
No, I actually don't even remember. I think I was just on Google. And then I saw this loan officer's phone number, called him, and he was like, yeah, no, we can definitely help you. So literally right after graduation, the house directly behind my college house popped up for sale. It was like an identical layout, identical size. Bought that, didn't really have a fucking clue what I was getting into. I just knew that I could rent it out to college kids. And I think that that's kind of one of the biggest piece of advice that I would give to people looking to get into real estate is you always buy off of cash flow, right? If it doesn't cash flow, I would never buy it. There's not a property I've ever bought that doesn't cash flow. And so, in the most simple way, right, I had to put, I think it was like $50,000 down in order to buy it. And luckily I was able to save that through bartending. But I knew that the house was going to cost me $1,100 a month. And I knew that I could rent it out for $3,600 a month. So literally since 2017 until now, that house has been 100% occupied, bringing in $3,600 a month for, how long is that? 7 years. So that's what started it. And the good news is right, like as you start buying those cash flowing assets, right, that was an extra $2,500 a month coming into my pocket, still bartending, right? So I'm still bringing in All of my bartending
You're making
money,
good money as a 20 whatever year old.
22.
Yeah.
So next one down the street popped up, was able to save up enough money again and bought that like 6.5 months later. Same ordeal. It was 7-bedroom college house costing me like $1,200 a month. House I still own brings in $2,800 a month. So that was just kind of like the game that I started. And, you know, at the time, I knew nothing about the real estate agent side of things. Did not understand it, had no fucking clue. Just would literally call the agent off of Zillow, which seemed to always be the listing agent. So I don't know if I was maybe just like finding the listing agent's number, but I had no idea what I was doing. And it wasn't until the 4th house that popped up, an agent actually in our market, her name's Rachel Sutherland, changed my life. I owe so much of my success to her because she ended up selling me my 4th house because the listing agent wouldn't show it to me. Just they were too busy. And I like told her, I was like, Rachel, you know, if we get this house, I'll use you forever. And we ended up getting that house, and her and I just really hit it off. And she was the first agent to ever take me through a house. And it wasn't, she didn't talk any of the good about the house. It was only pointing out the flaws and pointing out the things that were going to cost me money down the road. So it's like the first time I'm really getting a taste of like, okay, this is like what an agent does.
Yeah.
Like they should, like she cared. You know what I mean?
What an agent should do, because most agents don't do that.
Or they don't know, you know. Yeah. So with all that being said, that's where her and I started talking, because she's like, okay, so you're investing. She also invests. So we're kind of like talking about what she looks at versus what I look at. And we just kind of hit it off. And at the time, she was really starting to ramp up her career and kind of looking to start a team. And so she's like, listen, if you get licensed, I think you'd be a good agent. I'll train you. I'll mentor you. And if nothing else, if it doesn't work out, like you're buying houses at a rate where it just makes sense for you to be licensed.
Yeah.
And that just speaks volumes to like who she is as a person, because, you know, hindsight's 2020. I own 40 something properties today. I mean, I would have used her for every single one of those.
It's a lot of commission.
Right.
Yeah.
But for her, like you could just tell like her intentions were so good. So that sparked, you know, I'm in the middle of finishing my master's degree, doing the real estate license, get licensed, start with her. Totally have a false persona of where I think, or what I think being a real estate agent is, right? I'm thinking, you know, it's easy. People are going to call me. People are going to buy houses.
Open some doors for people.
Yeah, simple, right? Because bartending was simple, because all I did was, you know, post an Instagram story and everybody would come to the bar, right? So I was like, oh yeah, this will work. And real estate doesn't work that way. So a year into my career, I had sold no houses. Like my first year.
You sold nothing your first year?
Zero. Like full-blown zero, and was very close to quitting real estate, like super fucking close.
And I think anybody would, like after 12 months of nothing, it's like, what the fuck am I doing?
What am I doing? But in you know, hindsight's 2020, but I wasn't treating it like a true career. You know what I mean? I was not at all. And finally, it was just one day I was very close to quitting. I talked to my mom. I talked to a very good friend of mine that was in medical device sales. So I thought maybe I'd, you know, go in that route. And both of them kind of said the same thing of like, you need to treat this like a career. And if you do that and 6 months later, you're in the same boat,
you try it.
Then we'll do something else. Yeah. Right. And the nice part was that I could kind of, not bringing in income off of real estate wasn't a big deal, because I owned 4 properties at the time that were really cash flowing well. And I was still bartending part-time. Right. And then, I just woke up one day and was like, all right, fuck it. Like, I'm going to treat this like an actual job. Like, I'm going to the office at 8 a.m. I'm staying there all day, all night. Like, my broker used to text me and be like, yo, you have to go home. Like, it's midnight. Like, you got to go. And I did that. And it was like the first month of me, like, truly treating it like a career and starting to understand, like, sales isn't about saying the right things or doing it's all about the relationship. Like Jason talked a lot on that on the last episode. And it's so true. You know, it was once I took that approach of understanding real estate and then understanding that this is a game of relationships, that's when it all took off. And I think in that first month I had sold like 850,000 in sales.
That's wild.
So now I'm like, yo, I just made like 25 grand. Like, this is fucking nuts. And the thing with me is like, I don't always learn things quickly, but once I learn it, it's like, now I just go. And from there, it just built. And so that very first year, I did like 6.5 million in sales, which at the time was a big number. And The following year, I popped off for like 18 million and came out of nowhere, made the top 100 list, and everyone's like, who the fuck is this kid?
Sean kid?
Yeah, who's this kid, right? So I was on Rachel's team through all that time, and then going into the following year, I was on pace to do another big number. And, Rachel did nothing, to make it where I wanted to leave. I started having agents come to me and be like, I want to work with you.
Yeah, you had opportunity. Yeah.
And it started to seem like the right thing to do. And it was definitely a very hard conversation. But I mean, she took it so well and, has done nothing but,
and kudos to her for being that kind of person.
Well,
seriously.
dude, the funniest part is, so like we were at a brokerage up until November, right? So we just switched over to Hunt starting in November of this last year. The person that set that up was her. Like I called her and she's like, what's going on? Like I heard you're shopping around. And she's the one that literally put the whole thing together, which like, how do you can't talk about a better person. No. Like I owe the fucking world to her.
Shout out to you, Rachel.
Yeah, dude, the best. If you can ever get her on here, she's got kids. I love it. She lives a very busy life and runs a super successful team. But yeah, I mean, it just speaks volumes about her. But started the team and we started off like 4 or 5 agents. They were all very close friends of mine that I was already helping in the industry. And, I remember we sit down at dinner and I mean, all 4 of them are still with us, all very good agents. And, but we're not putting up a big number by any means, right? Like maybe 20 million and I'm probably like 18 million of it, right? Yeah. And I'm like, we're going to become the number 1 team. We're chasing Jason Sakoti. Like we're going to do this. And they're looking at me like I'm a fucking lunatic. But like, that's definitely a recommendation that I would make to people that are in the business or, maybe just starting or kind of, have done a couple million, but aren't sure what direction to go. Like you have to have that belief, right? Like I never had a doubt that I was going to take over that number 1 spot in Western New York real estate in terms of a team. I believed it from the moment I started that team. And, I just knew that I was going to show up every day and continue to show up every day. And, that's how we got here. So, the team just has exponentially exploded for the last 2.5 years that it's been created.
It's insane, dude. It really is. And on that vision part, yes, obviously, inside of you, and I'm the same way, like you have this big vision, you're going places, you're ambitious, but being able to pull that out of your head and cast that vision to the people around you is a skill. It's a skill. And when you're able to do that and allow people to see, oh, this is what Cam's thinking, this is what Sean's thinking. And I see the trajectory now. That's something I've had to learn is get it out of my head and show people exactly where you want to go.
Exactly. And I mean, that's the whole thing is like, it's just organically grown and it's been the coolest thing to watch, but it's also like one of the number 1 principles on our team is it's not the Sean show, right? Like did I found the team? Yes. But the Blueprint team is not where it's at today because of just me, right? I've got Ryan Devon on that team who is an absolute killer. Nicole Aldinger, Peter Lau, Josh McDougall, Mike Simonelli. Like the list goes on and on. We had 5 agents in the top 100 last year, and they've all brought people on the team. They train people on the team. They mentor people on the team. So, as much as I do get a lot of the credit, like I do not deserve all of the credit by any means because the Blueprint team doesn't exist without those people, right? They play just as big of a part of it as I do. And that's super important for me to know and definitely something I always try to put out there because the team isn't just led by me, right? Like they are all leaders on our team. They're all my business partners. And that's really where the magic has happened is I always had this idea of, starting a team that wasn't based around me.
It was bigger than you.
That's why the team name has nothing to do with me.
Same here.
Most people have no idea that it was started by me 2.5 years ago. But at this point, right, I want everybody to know like those names that I just dropped, and there's fucking 10 more people I could name. It's just there's so many of them. But that's why we're at where we're at because we've built just such an excellent culture. And through saying that, like I've gotten so much help along the way. Like Joe Sorrentino Jr. is an agent in Buffalo, New York, who is unbelievable and helped me so much throughout my path. Jason Sakoti, like I remember when I was trying to figure out which brokerage we should move to, and that was a very stressful time period. And I tell everybody, like, who I called and probably gave me the best advice? It was Jason. I'm his biggest competitor in terms of team, right? And it's just so great because Jason and I have such a good relationship because we bounce ideas off of each other. And to his whole episode, right? Like dropping the ego. Like I don't have an ego. I'm very confident. Like I have no problem bleeding confidence.
Those are two different things though.
Correct.
Those are two
yeah,
different
but
things.
it's just so awesome. And that's, to me, like that's the key of why there's so many successful agents and teams in Western New York, is because the really good teams and the really good agents, like we're all friends.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck if you're at Keller Williams, Howard Hanna, whatever brokerage you're at, I don't care. Right. Because at the end of the day, what I recognized very early on was it was going to be a lot easier for me to get deals done as an agent if people liked me, right? If agents don't like you and don't respect you, and they don't believe that you are a good person and a good agent that knows what they're doing, why the fuck would they ever accept your offer?
It takes two people on a transaction. If you're fucking everyone up, like,
well, and I mean, it's like 90% of the business in Western New York is done by the top 100 agents. So like, I don't want enemies, and I don't want people to have, any issues with me or my team. And that's kind of one of the most important things that I try to tell agents is like, don't get me wrong. Your job is to always advocate for your client. It's always to fight for your client, but there's the right way to do it. Right. And so I always tell our agents, like, you don't want to be a problem creator. Right? Like our job is to get things to closing on terms that are acceptable for the buyer and for the seller, right? There is no reason that two adults cannot figure out common ground to make that work. And that was it was game changer for me, right? Because you get these agents that, you can tell they don't really understand it yet. And they think it's like me versus you. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, we're not on the same team. We're at different brokerages. But if we're running a deal together,
you gotta work together.
We are on the same team at that point, right? Both for both of our clients' sake. And that's one thing that I really try to hammer home with our agents. I'm a very easygoing guy, but there are certain things that will absolutely set me over the edge. And one of the number one things that I try to get them to understand is, I check in with the top agents in our area, and I make sure that they don't have a bad word to say about the agents on our team. And I always tell them, like, I will never be upset with one of my agents if they ask me the same question 50 times. I'll be upset when they don't ask the question and then they go do whatever it is that they did, right? And I think that that's huge from a leadership standpoint, right? Is if you're going to get frustrated because somebody's not getting it, like, no, you're not teaching it correctly at that point. And, so that to me is huge. But yeah, I mean, it's been a hell of a fucking ride so far.
Hell yeah, brother. Clearly. So in your opinion, what do the most successful real estate agents all have in common? If you could narrow it down to like one or a couple of things, what would that be?
I think the number one thing that I would say is consistency. Our best agents are consistent, right? I'm going to shout out Brandon Kamoitek. So Brandon's been in the business for a handful of years and just jumped into being a full-time agent. And here's the deal. He's putting up the biggest numbers he's ever put up in his career. As a part of that, because he's putting more time into it as a full-time agent. Yes.
And he's using great video too.
He is. Shout out to you guys for that. It's awesome. But with that being said, right, the thing with Brandon is I'm not surprised by the success that he has. I told him when I first met him, he has all the intangibles to be great. And I tell every agent that joins our team, joining the team is not going to make you great. I'm going to give you all the tools to be great, but don't get it confused. If you don't show up and you don't do the work, it is not going to work. We have agents on our team that aren't putting up the numbers that they should because they lack the consistency of coming into the office and doing the reps and doing the work that people don't want to do, right? And yeah, follow-up sucks. It sucks to follow up with people all day, every day, and make those calls and make those posts, right? And just grind it out, and you can't see that reward rate at the end of it. But what I try to get them to understand is that it's a game of consistency and consistent follow-up, right? Because one mistake that I see agents make is they focus on the people that will buy a house or sell a house right now.
Yes.
And where my career took off and really started to put up good numbers was I got an understanding that I needed to spend equal parts of my time focusing on the people that can look right now, the people that are 3 months out, the people that are 6 months out, 12 months on, and so on, right? And I often call it like the analogy of the cannon, right? And that cannon needs to always be reloading because all of a sudden, if you only focus on those people that are ready right this second, you're going to sell them houses and great, you made some money, but you're fucked.
And now what?
Because now you're fucked, right? So that's where like getting agents to understand, like you have to do this consistently. You have to post consistently. You have to follow up consistently. And that to me is when I look at all the top agents in our area. I mean, that's what they have all in common. I mean, it's, even at our office in Hunt, I mean, there's some powerhouses. You have the Tasker team, you have the Rob Blake team. Like we've got big agents in that office. Guess who's at the office every day? Those guys, right?
Follow up. Can you tell the story about your client, Harriet?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. So she was an internet random lead, right? Came through and I could see on the back end, like the price points that she was shopping in. And it was a big number. It was like 700 to $1 million, which like at the time, like that was huge to me, right? Like this was super early. So I get her on the phone, we connect. She lets me know that, she's got family in Buffalo. She's looking to make a move here, maybe going to build. And so I had literally stayed in touch with her for like 2 years. Like I'd call her once a month. We would just chat it up a little bit and we kind of became friends. Like I knew that she loved the Mets and I like would update shit like that in my CRM, right? So like I always put little notes that are mentioned because if that person ever forgets you or you drop the ball for a month, you can always reference a previous phone call and get them to kind of come back, right? And so I had talked to her consistently and then got super busy and kind of lost focus on my follow-up. And so she had kind of slipped through the cracks and I ended up getting back in touch with her. She's like, oh, Sean, I'm so sorry. I ended up talking to a builder, I'm in process, but it's not going well. And, I will definitely stay in touch. So probably like a couple weeks go by, maybe 6 weeks, and I get a call from this woman, and she's like, is this Sean? And I'm like, yeah. And didn't sound great.
Yeah, you're like, what did I do?
Yeah, I'm like, fuck. And she goes, I think you've been talking to my mother. And I'm like, who's your mom? And she's like, Harriet. And I'm like, Harriet? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, the build isn't going well, and I just wanted to call and thank you because my mom said that for 2 years, you would just call her and there was never pressure. Like you would literally just call to check in. And I did. Like that was really the roots of my business, man, were pounding the shit out of the phones, getting leads off of social media and just maintaining that relationship, right? Would I call and say, hey, I'm doing my follow-up? No, right? If I call and just say, hey, how are you doing? How's life? Yep. Right? Is everything good? Do you have any real estate questions? Just letting them know I'm here. But not, hey, are you ready to buy a house shit, right? People don't want to hear that shit. And sure as shit, Harriet's daughter called me and is like, the build fell through. Our neighbor's actually a realtor, but my mom is insistent on using you. Can we go look at these houses? Ended up selling her a house that was at the time the biggest of my career ever. I was doing $200,000, $300,000 sales, which are great. I still do those. Those are some of my favorite sales because they're just much easier than when you're in that high end. And yeah, sold her a house, but I mean, it all goes back to, I often tell agents, right? I called this woman 24 times, right? Let's say it over a 2-year period. Those phone calls were 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes.
Whatever that math is.
Whatever the math is, it's not a lot of fucking time.
Yeah.
Harriet then bought a house where I made a $20,000+ commission. Like, don't tell me that that's not worth it. But again, if you take that approach of I'm only going to focus on people right now, you're fucked. You're never going to have those people, right? But those 24 phone calls over a 2-year period that took up 10 minutes of my time each month yielded a $20,000+ commission. Like that's the game you're in, is how many conversations can you have every day about real estate or just staying in touch with people? And that's kind of always been my objective is I want when people think of Sean Mattrey, they think of houses. And now it's like that's what's created this organic. But when you start, like you don't have that. You have to create that. And that goes into, the social media branding and all of that stuff. But it all goes back to your original question. Like what do all great agents do? They consistently follow up. They consistently lead gen. They consistently work. And it's not hard. I will say it is hard for agents because your first couple months, man, you don't make any money. So it's also like you got to kind of, I always love when people call me and say, hey, I'm thinking of getting into real estate. 9 out of 10 times they don't after that phone call because I remind them like, yo, for 3 months, for 4 months, you might not see a dollar. But if you can sustain and you can make that work and you're willing to maybe work a part-time job and wake up and still do real estate work, like you're going to do more work than you've ever worked in your entire life. And you're going to make the least amount of money you've probably ever made in your entire life, right? But eventually that flips.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're making way more money than you ever thought you'd be making. And it's an investment into your business.
Well, good for you for being real with people on those phone calls, because you could just say, oh yeah, you make a shit ton of money. Come join my team.
Well, because I pride myself on that, right? Like if I'm going to take somebody onto our team and I'm going to mentor them, like I take that very seriously. Like from the standpoint of, this is their livelihood. Yeah. Not everybody's in a position where they bought real estate at 22 years old. So, if I don't sell real estate, I'm okay, right? I have no problem saying that, and it's not a flex.
That's powerful right there, because you're good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're good. Yep. And a lot of agents, this is their only.
And that's just it. I don't want to see anybody, right, get to a place where like it's not financially feasible, right? So they've they got to have that back end support as well, and that's why so many of our agents are young on our team, which is awesome, right? Yeah. They live at home. They just got out of college. Like they don't need a lot of money to sustain. So getting them to see the path that I took, right, and seeing that, like, listen, man, I made a lot of money in a very short amount of time, and it's continued to grow and build. But understand that I didn't sell a house my first year. So it's okay that you didn't sell a house in your first 3 months, right? And now, you've only sold one house in 6 months? Well, guess what? You're in a better place than I was 6 months into my career.
And that's great that's part of your story, like not selling a house for 12 months.
Yeah, that sucked.
It sucked, but now looking back, it's like you can tell people, listen, man, this is how it was for me.
But the teaching point there was for 12 months, I didn't do the fucking work, and I didn't consistently show up, right? And Rachel had a very real conversation with me, and that resonated with me and some other people that were mentoring me at the time. And that's the biggest thing. Like I will absolutely lay into our agents, and I never do it from like a humiliating way. Sure. I never do it in a disrespectful way. But believe me, I've had phone calls with our agents of like, dude, like, where I start with all of our agents is we figure out what their goal is and we figure out their why. And that's probably the most powerful thing, is if you can really find somebody's target and then you can find why they want it, it's very easy to get them to do what they need to do in order to hit that, as long as we got the why part of it right.
What's your why?
My mom. Yeah.
Talk about that.
So my mom had me when she was 17. Definitely was a shit show, right? So I had a teen mom. My dad, who we have an amazing relationship now, but he actually suffered from drug addiction for like the first 22 years of my life or so, 22 years. So definitely had a rough childhood, but like I always tell people, like it was kind of like a split world. Like when I would see my dad, it was obviously not great, but my mom did like she provided everything. Like I lived a very good childhood, and it was all because of my mom. I mean, she made a decision to have a kid at 17 years old, went to college, got into the family business. And I mean, she has worked 50, 60 hours a week for my entire life, right? And, would I say I got every single thing I wanted growing up? No, but I got to do a lot of cool shit. I got to play sports. She figured out a way for me to go to private school in Buffalo for high school, which was the most life-changing thing I've ever done, and the best decision I ever made was going there. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was always like you have to find your why, because like, in my opinion, if you find it, it should be something that when you talk about it, like the passionate part of you, and it should make you want to run through a wall.
Oh yeah.
And so for me, like, it's corny, but all I have to do is sit there and think about like, okay, my mom literally gave up the best years of her life. Like when I think about what I've done from 17 until 29, it's a fucking shit show. I've been all over the world. I've lived the best life ever. I have literally zero regrets, wouldn't change a thing in my life. But all of that was made possible because from 17 until now, she has just worked and worked and worked. And the biggest thing that brings her joy and happiness is my success, right? So to me, that's kind of always been the reason. And I want to make it where, my mom's never going to stop working. She's just one of those people. But I can tell you right now, like she doesn't have to, and she knows that. And so that's really the biggest thing for me. Like that's my why. And that's a part of like when I bring agents on, like I share that with them. Yeah. And we talk about that, and we have some very deep conversations. And I explain to them like, I'm never going to use your why in a way of like manipulating you or hurting you. Yep. But I can guarantee you that if you don't do the right shit for the next 3 months, we're going to have a very honest conversation about why you told me you started this, what your goal was, what the fuck are we doing, right? Because if I ever fell off, my friends, my family, my colleagues would come to me and be like, what about your why? And that would snap me right back into reality, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like I've made the analogy of a dog, right? Like I could take my dog on a 5-mile run, dead exhausted, lays on the floor, falls asleep. If I say the word treat, my dog fucking snaps up and is ready to run through a brick wall for that, right? And that's how I talk about the why, right? Because if we find that, I can get you to do whatever the fuck it is I need you to do. And when I have to work 14, 15-hour days, I can guarantee you I don't always want to. I can guarantee you I'm not always motivated to. But I've learned the mind game within myself of I just have to think about that. Now this is easy.
And you get a second wind.
Correct.
You're like, oh, yeah, energy comes back, and it's so true. And for me, I resonate with that so much too. And more young people need to hear that, focusing on that why before anything you're going to do. It can be any business, but make sure that you know exactly why you're doing it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Jay talked a lot on it, like men's mental health and like being vulnerable. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think one of my greatest attributes and what allows me to be successful is I think I have a very good understanding of myself and my mental health.
Self-awareness, yep.
And I'm not afraid to share that. I'm not afraid to talk about that. And it all of a sudden makes people comfortable, and it makes them say like, oh, this is...
Brings those walls down.
Yeah. And that's what it's all about.
Yep. So how important is content in video marketing and just showing up online on social media these days for real estate agents?
So I think it's huge. I think it's a relatively kind of newer thing, if I'm being honest. Like when I first started, I did not do a lot of video. I still haven't done a lot of video, and I don't think that that's a good thing. However, I have seen agents that are doing it and agents on my team that are doing it, and it 100% is working, and it does work. And I think that I need to start doing that. But with that being said, I think that it goes back to that consistency trait, right? So like when I first started, I literally would post on social media every day. Sometimes real estate related, sometimes just about the family, sometimes about the girlfriend, right? Whatever it was, I was just consistently getting my name out there on Facebook, Instagram, right? Whatever. And it was this idea of when people think of my name, they need to think about real estate. So it would always have like a little bit of a play on it. But I think video is huge. I mean, I can tell you, I told you that first podcast that I did, right? It was a couple months ago.
Yep.
He chopped it up into a bunch of short clips.
We're going to do the same thing here.
And I posted that. And I mean, dude, it was, my DMs were fucking flooded. It works. This is not a good teaching element for agents out there looking at this, but I can guarantee you that Jay knows what I'm talking about, and top agents and team leads know what I'm talking about. Like, you will see me very much so slow down on social media because I'm just too busy, right?
That's a great problem to have.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So I would say for any agent that's not selling what they want to sell or doesn't feel like they're at their capacity, you should be doing nothing more than posting, creating video content, putting yourself out there. And Jay touched on this, and I couldn't agree more. Like, you have to be an authentic motherfucker when you're putting that out there. Nobody would like any of this shit if Jay showed up and wasn't who Jay is. And I can tell you, I watched that whole thing last night, and that is exactly who Jay is, 365, and it's why everybody loves him, And it's the same thing. Like, you have to be authentic, and you have to put it out there. But yeah, don't take that I don't do all of that stuff well as advice, because keep in mind I've got 40 agents to deal with, a bunch of flips and all that bullshit.
Well, yeah, and on the flip side, like, you also can do no social media, no video marketing, and be successful as hell, right? 100%. So there's two sides to it. Just the social media and video marketing side of it is just fuel to the fire.
Absolutely.
If you're doing both in tandem, man.
Yeah, no, it's definitely on my list of things to do, and we're getting there. And no, we will definitely be collabing and doing some cool shit. I'm pumped for this to roll out, because I have no doubt that once I start posting these shorts that you'll create from this,
you're going to the moon, dude.
It's going to be a shit show.
Let's talk about real estate investing. Get back into that, because that is real estate investing is what got me into entrepreneurship.
Sweet.
Bigger pockets, listening.
Yeah.
5 years on my commute to college back and forth. I used to say I learned more in my car commuting to college than I did sitting 100%. In my classrooms. Let's talk about your current portfolio. So you said you have over 40 houses now?
Yeah.
What does it look like? If you want to talk about units, cash flow, if you're open to it.
So it's 40 physical properties. I don't even know what the fucking unit breakdown is.
Okay.
I don't own them just individually, so I have
partners.
A handful of them that are just me. I own a handful with Peter. I own a handful with Peter, myself, and Nicole. I own some with my mom, and then I own a ton with Ryan Devon, who is on our team.
Okay.
So it's kind of broken up. I have multiple partners across different properties, which is been a learning experience for sure. I definitely would tell people to, and all of my partners are spectacular, but I have had partnerships in the past that have not gone well, and we no longer own property together. But with that being said, it's definitely make sure that you have those open conversations.
Yes.
But with that being said, I mean, to me, there is no greater decision that I've made in life than being with my girlfriend first, but
had to get that in. Yeah.
But investing in real estate, just from the standpoint of, you can't lose, you know, and it's where I think if you stick to that model of does it cash flow, right? Everybody, in my opinion, should have to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much I agree with Robert Kiyosaki with the direction that he's gone since.
But the fundamentals of that book.
That book,
yes.
Everybody, it should be fucking required that everybody fucking reads.
My brother
that.
just graduated high school and read the book. I'm like, you're good.
You
bro.
need
like,
to. I mean, it's so fucking simple, right? You buy things that make you money, that pay for things that don't make you money. It is so fucking easy. But that's the problem, is there's so much info out there. There's so much content out there that, like, most people, once they become a client of mine, like, they can't believe how easy this is. Like, I am not the smartest dude in the room, dude.
Me neither, bro.
I'm not even fucking close. I was like a 70 student growing up, like, just grinded my way through school. This is not rocket science, man. It is the easiest thing in the world, right? Mm-hmm. How much money do you have to put in to buy it? How much money do you need to put in to fix it? What's it worth when it's done? Or if it's turnkey, right? How much money does it bring in? Does it carry itself, right? And obviously, is it bringing in enough money that the management and the headache of owning the real estate, is it worth it, right? And if you follow that, it is so fucking easy. And the beautiful part is, you know, I remember being 22 years old and being like, I got to buy more. And it's like, you want to, and of course I wish that I did. I wish I did, but I couldn't, right? But if you told me at 29 I would own everything that I own, I would be, no way, right? But that's the beautiful part, is if you get the first couple of deals right, it just snowballs.
The momentum starts.
It's insanity, dude. I mean, Ryan and I think, and huge shout out to Ryan Devon, like, that dude is probably the most underrated agent on our team. I would argue he's the best agent on our team. And what I love most about him is, the only reason he doesn't sell more real estate than I do is because I'm not married with kids yet, and Ryan is married with a son. And I've learned so much from him, as not just in business, but as just a man. Like, it is the coolest fucking thing in the world that this dude, every day, like, we talk all day, every day, 8 a.m. to midnight, but from 5 until like 8:30, I cannot get a hold of him. He's with a son.
I love
it. And
it.
that's the coolest shit in the world, right? And that's like, I have not learned that trait yet of turning this off, but I can tell you that I can guarantee you, when my girlfriend and I have kids, like 100%.
And I'm
like,
the same way.
oh
I know
God.
now I'm in a season where it's okay to kind of grind my fucking face off, but as soon as a kid comes into the picture, I want to be at a point where I'm locked in.
Yeah,
you know?
it's just the coolest thing to see. You know what I mean? Like, it's so respectable, and then just like what he brings from. Him and I have had two totally different views on real estate investing, like when we first met, and
How
now.
so?
So Ryan always took the approach of buying very dilapidated properties, fixing them up, refining it out, and getting all of his money back. And now he's got the rental property essentially for free.
The Burr method.
I never did that, right? And it was probably because, like, I am not a handy guy. Like, I am a fucking joke when it comes to power tools. But I've learned a lot, right? And luckily through my partnerships with Peter on our team, because Peter is a beast.
He's a handy guy.
Oh, dude. I mean, he's built fucking new builds. You know what I mean? Like, he's built brand new houses.
That's sick.
He's done massive home renovations. Like, that's what he was doing before he got into real estate. And then we got him super good at real estate, so we gave that part of it up. And you know, but essentially Ryan was always doing that method. I was much more of the approach of buying things that were more turnkey, that made enough money in rental income where the investment made sense, which has become more and more difficult to find as prices have gone up and rates have gone up, right? So with that being said, Ryan and I partnered up at the start of this year, and I mean, we've bought 15 properties
just this year.
In 6 months. You know, so it's just like it is like the perfect team, perfect combination. But learning that side of it was just so cool, and luckily we kind of were able to do a lot of networking where we were able to get a hard money investor that has just opened up avenues that are not possible. You know, but obviously You get a hard money investor, there's a cost to that. And those guys aren't just handing out money for free. It's a very high interest rate, right? But it's also, Ryan comes with a very extensive background of contractors. I've luckily been able to build a different team of contractors. So we have this really good kind of tandem, but learning that BRRRR strategy, and it's one thing to learn it like on paper, but to actually do one, it was incredible. And now it's just like, that's the way to buy. Like that's... The number one thing I can tell you is, don't get me wrong, in Buffalo, I can still find properties on the market that are rather turnkey that you can buy and you'll make money month over month, right? But if you want to talk about really creating wealth for yourself, you buy properties that are horribly, like just brutal condition that you can fix, and now you can make them that much better. Because when we go and we do that, and I can give you a real life example. We bought a 3-unit on the west side. We bought it for $300,000, and when everything I tell you could go wrong, everything went wrong. Eviction took longer than it ever should have, and we knew that going into it, but we didn't think that it would take as long as it did. So we had to hold this property for 6 more months than we anticipated. Place was fucking beyond shot compared to when we walked through it, but it is what it is. Like, we took on that risk. So we went over budget, we went over timeline. So we fucked up. When we were done with it, we had it reappraised. The appraisal came in at $540. So Ryan and I were literally able to go to the bank, refi out all of the money that we put into it, pay back the investor what we borrowed, plus the interest. Like, Ryan and I put money in our pockets off of that deal. And now we own that 3-unit, and it cash flows, I think, $1,500 a month or so.
Fucking home run deal.
Steal. And we've got a ton of those, right? And that's the game that we're in. And so I would say for people that are just starting out, I would personally, unless you're a very handy person, I would buy something that's pretty close to turnkey or needs like paint, like basic bullshit, right? And just buy something where it's going to cash flow $1,000 a month, right? Just get your feet wet.
How about house hacking? That's how I started.
House hacking. So talk me through, just because I've heard.
Just buying a multi-unit, living in one of the units.
Fucking idiot.
I mean, for me, I got
I'm a real estate guru, and I don't know fucking house hacking, fucking moron.
I got an FHA loan, 3.5% down, was able to get into a property for like 10 grand out of pocket, and it was relatively turnkey. Move right in, mortgage is covered. And now I still own that today. It cash flows $1,000 a month, and
it's everybody should do that, right? 100%. I mean, that's where I would start. And I tell people I wouldn't start off with a major fixer upper, especially if you don't have that background.
Unless you're handy in contract,
right. And on the flip side of it, you have to figure out if you like being a landlord, right? Like, I enjoy it. I am very tight with all of my tenants. Like, I am a big believer in the way you manage your tenants is the way. It's going to decide the destiny of your portfolio.
That's interesting. So you have like a personal relationship with all of them?
Yep.
Because I know there's two sides to that. Some people are like, I only want to keep it strictly business and not really get tied.
I would compare it a lot to the real estate team. So I am, don't get me wrong. We are close friends. We go out. We have a blast. We hang, they are my closest friends. I wouldn't say my tenants are necessarily my closest friends, but I have a relationship that could be, I guess, could be looked at as a friendship.
You would have dinner with them.
100%.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, there's not a person on our team that doesn't respect me and knows when it's time to be serious. And it's the same thing with my tenants. So there's a very fine line that you have to walk. I think I'm good at walking it from bartending, right? Like, I can read people. I kind of know, like, do I need to be rough on this person? Do I need to be super soft with this person? I mean, don't get me wrong. Push comes to shove, it can always put you in a bad position.
Sure.
It's put me in very few, but I've always taken the approach is if somebody likes you or in respects you, they're probably not going to fuck you over, right? And I explain to my tenants, like, listen, do I want my rent by the first of the month? Yes. But there's a human element that you need. At least I can't not have that human element. Like, that's just not me as a person. If a tenant texts me and says, hey, shit is super tight right now. Is it cool if I get you the rent on the 10th or the 14th? Sure. Right? I'm not fucking living and dying on this rent money. Yeah. Right? And you shouldn't be buying rentals if you're living and dying on that money. Right?
I agree.
It's an investment that is more of a long-term play. Now, don't get me wrong. You can scale it to the point where you are living off of that money. But if you have 40-something properties and you have 2 or 3 tenants not paying, I'm not letting that ruin my fucking day. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to work it out with them. And here's the deal. If I take an authoritative asshole approach to those people, do you think they're in a rush to pay me or want to pay me? Versus if I kill them with kindness say like, listen, this is my business. This needs to get handled. But yes, I will work with you. Get me that on the 14th.
And that's it right there. Setting the expectation of, okay, yeah, I'm going to be a human here. And I know things happen, but making sure this isn't a reoccurring thing.
Well, and that's where Ryan and I are a good team, because Ryan is Ryan's a rough motherfucker with that shit, man. He's like, you're being too nice. I'm like, you're being too mean. And so it's really good because we're finding that balance. But yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm a big believer in how you treat people is ultimately how your life's going to be dictated. Mm-hmm. And I can tell you that I think that it's one of the biggest reasons for the success on our team. I think it's one of the biggest reasons I've had success as far as owning and managing rentals, is because, don't get me wrong too. I'd rather a place sit empty than place a tenant in there that it's not a good situation for, right? If the credit doesn't make sense, if the income doesn't make sense, we're not going to rent it to you. And it has nothing to do of us being judgmental. Here's the deal. Every real estate attorney in Western New York, of course, wants a piece of our business just off the volume and the number of transactions we're doing. Our attorneys are not going to charge us to do an eviction. Like, they will do whatever they need because they are honestly making the smart business decision to do us a favor because they know the reward's coming on the back end.
Yep.
So I have no problem telling a tenant, like, listen, like, I never wanted to get to that place. No, we're not going to rent it to you because we're saving you a headache that is not going to be good for you or for us. So, that's kind of the other piece of it is, don't get me wrong. Like, we're only placing tenants where it truly makes sense and where they can truly show the income is there. And that's probably another piece of advice that I would give to somebody getting into this. Like, don't get me wrong. It is scary as fuck when you buy that first property and you're like, I have a $1,500 a month payment. Like, I need tenants, right? Of course. Mm-hmm. But understand, like, I would rather pay that mortgage 2 or 3 months out of my own pocket than to put a fucking tenant in there that cannot afford this and is not a good fit.
Preaching, man.
And that's really the key to it, right?
So, what does your screening process look like? Like, high level overview?
We're big on Zillow. We use Zillow for basically all of our rentals at this point. So typically it's nice because through Zillow, they fill out an application. It's all done through there. They provide their proof of income. Yep. It runs a credit check on them. So really, I mean, it's looking, but also having, again, that human element, right? Like, we just placed a woman in one of our buildings. Was her credit absolutely perfect? No, but she had 100% on-time payment history. And her debts all made sense. Like, right?
They weren't like credit card debt.
Yeah, it wasn't bad debt, So it's like, the other thing that I would say is obviously I can tell a lot about a person just when I sit in a room with them, right? And when I show our property to potential tenants, like, you can get a read on somebody, right? So there's a little bit of that, but we just try to place people where we feel that it's a good fit, but also the income is there. If the income and the credit are there, it's very few and far between that people just screw you over, especially if you treat them right. You know what I mean? And that's why anytime one of our tenants texts us, shit's done the next day. Right? Like, our handy guy is there getting it done because it's still a service industry, right? And people that think that, I own these properties and I just collect rent. No, right? When they want a hand railing installed or when they want that, right? Like, whatever the fuck it is, give it to them. It is going to cost you $100 and they are quite literally paying your mortgage. Yeah. Paying you cash flow. Yep. Why wouldn't you do that? Like, you're stupid not to. Within reason, right? Like, if they tell me, hey, I want an all brand new kit. Well,
they're making outrageous demands.
We can't do that, right? But it's still a respectful conversation, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and that to me is the art of that, is just managing that expectation, treating them right, but providing good, easy service for them. And if you can make tenants comfortable and you can make them happy, they tend not to leave. And that's your goal, right?
That's like, where the money's made. Long-term tenants yep.
But for me, I would say anybody that's looking to jump into this, you shouldn't give a fuck about interest rates. You shouldn't give a fuck about prices. And I hate saying that because it's like, all right, yeah, your real estate hat's on. Mm-hmm. Like, you're trying to get people to buy houses. No, like, I'm telling you how I bought houses, right? So a story I can tell you is it was actually the first house that I ever bought and house hacked, because those 4 houses that I bought, I was living in my mom's basement when I bought those. And when I was getting ready to buy my 5th house, my mom was like, whatever you fucking buy, you're moving into.
Get the fuck out of my basement.
Yes, yeah, she was over it. And I mean, she obviously was over watching all these rent checks hit my mailbox and her be like, get out, right? You got to go. Mm-hmm. And so the first house that I bought to live in was my 5th property. and it was in North Buffalo, which is like a super nice area of Buffalo that's kind of like in the last 5 years, like really flipped over. And
On the
it's
come
just,
up.
it's unbelievable. And this house that I went after was like mint, like couldn't beat the location of it. Newer roof, all sided, like it was updated to the nines, had a whole finished third floor, like super turnkey. Interest rates at the time are super low, but like I'm not thinking like that, right? And I know I'm going up against a ton of offers, and there had never been a house in North Buffalo that was a double that had sold for over 300,000. I bought that house for 321, and people are like,
"You're overpaying.
What are you doing?
Yeah,
You're overpaying,
yeah.
right?" And here's the deal: it all goes back to that rich dad, poor dad model. The property cash flows, because the monthly payment on that house is $1,800. And I always knew that the lower could rent for $1,500 and the upper could rent probably for close to $2,000, even at the time when I bought it, just because it had private access to the third floor. That's just like a super, super cool space. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that property
brings $3,500 right there. Yeah.
$3,500. I'm making $1,700 and I own a house. And now, however long ago I bought that, I don't even know. But now we're here. That house is worth well into the $400,000+ range. I didn't buy that because I knew that values were going there. I had no fucking idea. But what I knew was the house was going to bring me $1,700 a month in my pocket, and I used my FHA loan. So my down payment was going to be paid back in like a year and a half. So I bought that house. I paid myself back in a year and a half. And now I have a house that I sit on and I make $1,750 a month from.
No fucking brainer.
How do you beat that?
But
it all goes back to, if I paid attention to, no, I need to buy it for under what everything else is selling for. I don't care if the value, and I say this to my clients even right now, nobody has any fucking idea if values are going to go up, down, left, right. We don't fucking know. Here's what I can tell you. You're going to lock into a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Are you okay with the amount of money that you have to pay at closing? And are you okay with the monthly payment? Right? And that goes for single family homes or investment properties. Does it make sense for you in your position? Because here's the deal. As long as you buy a house that suits your needs for years to come, history says real estate continues to grow and continues to go up, right? And even if you have those psychotic years like 2008, real estate has done nothing but go up since 2008. But even if it dips, you already told me that this monthly payment is comfortable for you, right? So what do you care?
So why does it matter?
Because as long as the house suits your personal needs, right? If you're planning on a kid, maybe buying a 700, 800 square foot home isn't the best idea, right? Maybe you buy a house that's a little bigger. And I always tell people, especially people shopping single family, if you want to talk about protecting yourself, if you're worried about where the market's going, buy something where if you called me in 5 years to sell it for you again, if I tell you the market hasn't continued and we cannot sell this right now and get you out of it unscathed, does this home have the space and what you need that you could continue living there? Maybe you don't want to, but could you, right? Or is this a house that you might need to make a move on in a year or two? Now we could talk about maybe you have some risk if the market's going to go down, right? And it's the same premise with interest rates. I've never understood why people give a fuck about interest rates. Those first houses that I told you about, at the time, interest rates were like 4.5. That hard money lender was 7%. What the fuck did I care? My monthly payment was $1,100.
The numbers work.
It brought in $3,600.
Yep.
Cool, right? And especially now with rates where they are, right? You can get people, a perfect applicant, high fives, right? But up to, into the sixes, low sevens. Who gives a fuck? Truthfully, because actually think about this. Let's say you buy it, right? We've already established you're comfortable with what you have to pay out of pocket. We've already established that you're comfortable with the monthly payment. Who cares what the rate is? You've already said you're good with those two numbers. If you close that house and rates go up, you're going to be happy as fuck that you bought.
You're locked in.
Because you have a good interest rate compared to where the market is.
Yep.
If interest rates go down, we're going to fucking refinance.
Yep.
Who cares about the interest rate? It is all about, on the single family level, can you afford it right now and can you continue to afford it, right?
That's it.
What is it? And on multifamily, I'll pay a fucking 15% interest rate as long as the property supports it.
It's cash flowing.
Truthfully.
Yep.
Doesn't, it's irrelevant, right? And so it's such a mistake that I see people make, and I get it. I mean, at the same time, people are obviously influenced by their parents. The prices that people are seeing nowadays, especially with where rates are, and I don't think rates are all that bad when you look at historical side of things, but with where prices are and rates are, right? Monthly payments are astronomical, especially when you talk to your parents or your grandparents, right? So it just comes down to, like, truthfully, can you afford that and can you sustain that? If you can't and it's uncomfortable, let's not do it, right? Like, let's make sure that this is actually comfortable to the point where you can still live life the way that you want to live. And these are the conversations that I have not only with myself when I'm buying, right? But this is what I give to my clients. And it's so huge, right? Because no part of that conversation can make anybody in their right mind think that I'm trying to get you to buy a house. I'm educating you on how I personally look at deals. And I can't tell you that I trust it any more than literally all of my money goes into just buying more
practice
deals.
What you preach. You
Correct.
literally practice what you preach.
Yep.
I think the part about the rates is because people, it's almost like an ego thing. Like, people don't want, like, fuck that, I'm not getting a rate that high.
What I don't understand, especially on the investment side of things, is like, you write off your mortgage interest. Like, that's a fucking tax write-off.
Yeah.
Who cares? And on top of that, right? Okay, you're going to rent. You're paying 100% interest at that rate. And on top of that, like, I personally, and whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know, but my opinion is, if rates do go down, and I would be pretty shocked if any investor or any real estate agent would disagree with this, but I personally believe that if rates do go down, you're going to watch prices that we've never seen before, right? I think I actually saw Anthony Butera say that. And I couldn't agree more, because a handful of years ago, right, when shit really started to get incredibly competitive, the whole reason was because buyers could go up $10,000 on their offer, and it was costing them like $30 a month. And even now, for a buyer to go up $10,000 on their offer, it's roughly like $75, $80 a month. That's ignoring PMI, but that's the adjustment in terms of their mortgage, right? And at the end of the day, like, if that's sustainable, you're so much better getting into the market now, because, I mean, I don't think there's end in sight with this. I know Jay touched on this when I was watching the episode yesterday. Like, there is such a demand for homes, and they're not building them fast enough. And even when they're building,
they can't keep up.
Who the fuck's building $150,000 to $250,000 house? Nobody.
There's
right?
no
They're
profit
only
in it.
building bigger houses, right? And at the end of the day, sure, you can cater to that market, and that's fine. And I understand why they do it, right? They get sold, and there's good margin on those. But to Jay's point on his episode, all of those people that bought houses and are sitting at a 2 to 4% interest rate.
Why would I do anything right now?
That house that I told you about in North Buffalo, that I house hacked, that interest rate's at 2.4%. I will never sell that fucking house.
2.4?
Yeah.
I've got a 3.2.
That's huge.
Which is
even my personal home. So I live in Grand Island with my girlfriend. The home that we live in, my interest rate's at 2.7. Eventually we're going to build, but I'm still not going to sell that house. I'm going to rent it out.
Yeah.
Because why would I give up that interest rate? The house is, I mean, it's practically free with where interest rates are now, you know, and that's just why, like, you can wait, but if rates go up, you're going to pay more. And if rates go down, the prices are going to go up and you're going to pay more.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's like, if you are able to get into the market, I suggest that you do. If you're not able to get into the market, you should be saving and putting yourself at a place that you can enter the market. And I find that the biggest mistake I see people make is they don't want to talk to a realtor and they don't want to talk to a lender until they're ready. Isn't it strange that they have no fucking idea about what the lender is going to say, right? And the lender controls that destiny. So wouldn't it be a good idea to maybe talk to the lender?
Probably would be a good idea.
Find out if you are ready. And if you're not, they're probably going to give you a plan to get you ready, because the only way the lender gets paid is if they get you approved and you buy a home. And there's no cost to doing any of this. It's just conversation.
It makes sense, bro.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I don't know what to tell these people. So is most of your portfolio long-term rentals? I saw you own an Airbnb as well.
So my mom and Peter and I actually bought a Airbnb in Ellicottville.
Really cool property. I saw that. Yeah.
Dude, it's so fucking awesome. And when we bought that, rates were on the higher side. I still felt like, for where the Airbnb market was and what I projected it could bring in, I still felt that it could make money. Would I say it's our biggest money maker? No, but it pays for itself, right? We make a little bit off of it. But the cool part is we've got a banging house in Ellicottville that we can go to anytime and enjoy.
You get to use yourself. That's
exactly.
it right there. Yep.
So that was a play of, that's definitely a super long-term play. The most of my stuff, I mean, there's not many. I have a hard time putting a dollar amount on what I would want for properties of mine, because it's just like, I see the long-term value in owning real estate, right? So at this point, the the bulk of what I buy is with Ryan, just because we have a really good thing going and we have a really good team, especially as you scale, right? Like you've got to have certain things that you can do and certain things that I can do, right? Otherwise you're going to get bogged down. So we have a really good system in place, but the bulk of what we're buying, it's all long-term play. We'll buy flips if they make sense, which are awesome because, right, you get a fat check when you're done.
If you do it right,
But when you do the math on the tax side
Capital
of things,
gains.
and I'm going to shout out another person that you should bring on here. His name's Kevin McMullen.
I saw his Instagram.
He's fucking dope, man. That dude's story is so cool, and he's a great agent, and he's a real estate investor. So he'd be awesome to get on here. But with that being said, I saw him out for dinner probably like 2.5, 3 months ago, and we were just shooting the shit a little bit, and he's just like, I've been doing so many flips and I feel like it's been a mistake. Like I'm watching these properties resell 4 years later, 3 years later at such a higher price. I should just hold them, rent them out, and whatever. I can sell them when I want to. And I talked to Ryan about that, and I'm like, Kevin's not a stupid dude. I'm like, if he's thinking that and we're thinking that, I'm like, we're probably not wrong.
Yeah.
And it's just true, right? Because the flips are an awesome way to bring in big money fast. But, I mean, you get railed on taxes. And you've got nothing to show for it at the end other than money, right? Which is fine, but it's not, the money's not doing anything for you. So we kind of use that as like if it's just a property that we don't feel like is going to make sense as a rental property, right? And that just kind of depends, right? So most of our single family stuff is all flips, and then we like to just hold things that are multiple units, right? 2, 4, however many units we can get our hands on, and that's kind of the game we play.
Yeah. If something comes to mind, and you can think about this for a second, is there one piece of advice, wisdom that you've received from maybe a mentor or someone you look up to that's changed the way you think, changed the way your perspective on life, business, personal, anything like that?
I think there's going to be 2 answers to this. One is going to be something that I learned from somebody, and then something is going to be from what I learned from running the team.
Okay.
And I actually touched on it in the podcast that you watched earlier.
Okay.
The number one mistake that I made and this would be more towards like leaders or people that want to start teams. And this honestly it's not just real estate, right? Like this is people that are just managing other people. The number one thing that I had to learn was everybody is not going to be me. And actually, to be honest with you, Joe Sorrentino told me that, and I didn't listen to him. And then I, kind of bit myself in the ass by not taking that approach. But the story that I tell is Mary Ferraro on our team. She's an awesome agent, sells a very healthy number every year for what she wants to do, right? Like some agents would look and be like, oh, she's great. Other agents would be like, that's not a big number. What are you talking about? But it doesn't fucking matter because at the end of the day, whatever you sell or want to sell should be measured by you because it's for you, right? And when I first started the team, I took a very like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady.
You're like, I want savages everywhere.
I want to fucking just make calls. I wanted everybody to be killers. And I remember Mary just flat out said to me one day, like, I don't want to be you. I want to literally sell this amount of real estate. I have, she has 2 sons now. At the time, I think she only had one when this conversation happened. But her goal right now is to be the best mom that she can be and spend time with her kids while they're kids, right? And that completely, like, fucking rocked me from the standpoint of, like, yo, you're right. Like, you are 100% right. And where I think the team exponentially exploded was when I completely changed my leadership style from, trying to be this like you're going to be a savage into my main objective as a leader and as a mentor is I want to know your goal. I want to know why you want that goal. And now my fucking main objective in life for you is to do whatever I can
to make that happen.
To make it happen for you. And that's the biggest thing is just when it's probably the biggest mistake that I see leaders make is or anybody in a management position. It's like not everybody is going to fucking be a 16-hour-a-day grinder. Not everybody wants to buy all these houses and sell all these houses, right? Some people don't want to do that, and that's fine, right? Like, I'm not here to pass judgment. It's what I want to do, but that's why I do it, right? So who am I to tell somebody that says, this is what I want to do? Well, no, you should. Who the fuck am I to tell you that? That is not my place, right? So that's probably that was a learning experience that, like I said, Joe told me that. But once I really adopted it, man, I mean, it became so much easier to manage.
I've gone through the same thing. Like knowing that not everyone's super ambitious and motivated and wants to crush business. And what are you looking for?
They are, right? I think to a level people are motivated, ambitious, right? But it's in different things, right? Like I would never say Mary's not motivated or ambitious, but she's motivated and ambitious to be the best mom that she can be, right? And that's the whole thing is everybody has a target of what they want. And I think that a leader's role and a manager's role is to get them to that place and to support them to get to that place, right? And then give them praise, right? Because the number one thing you will never hear is you will never hear me say, oh, this agent sold this or became this because of me. And I will quite literally tell you, like, the success that our agents have had and the growth that they've had, don't get me wrong, I helped. But guess what? They fucking showed up. They fucking did the work, and they're the reason for it. That is not me. They made the decision to do the work. And that's important too, because when you're in a leadership management role, like I can tell our age, like it means something to our agents when you show them praise and when you show them that respect. And I don't know, I can't speak on other teams. I know Jay does a fucking hell of a job with it. But that's a big thing, man, is it can't be all about you. 100%. It's got to be about them too.
Love it, man. What was the second point?
God. So the second one would be just for anybody that is just not where they feel like they want to be career-wise, life-wise, anything. And it is, I don't think it's like from Tony Robbins, but Tony Robbins talks about it. And I listen to a lot of Tony Robbins, but he talks about burning the boats. And he talks about the story of, taking the island and to burn the boat before you take the island, because now you only have one fucking direction. You don't have a secondary. And that changed my life in every aspect. And anything that I've ever tried to do, from being a better son, a better boyfriend, a better leader, a better realtor, right? Like when I have taken the approach of there is no other fucking option, this is what we're doing. I'm not negotiating with myself. This is not fucking, like I've heard Kobe Bryant talk about it, right? Like you sign a contract with yourself to do it, right? And for me, what I also tell people to do, and what I've personally done, and I think I fucking look like a crazy person when I do it, but like when I was trying to become the top agent at our brokerage, or when I was trying to build the top team, like I fucking told people. I told my mom, I told my girlfriend, I told my friends, I told colleagues. And here's the deal. I didn't do it to be arrogant. I didn't do it to be cocky. I didn't do it for any of that. I did it because I know psychologically, if I tell everybody that, and then I don't do it, that scares the fucking shit out of me, right? So I think that's what it's about, man, is just figuring out your real direction, figuring out your why. But like, here's the deal. Like you have to just go out and do it. And if you give yourself outs or you give yourself reasons, it won't happen. It really, I've done it. I mean, that's why I didn't sell a house the first year that I was in real estate. Like I've lived on both ends of it, and I am living, breathing proof that if you do those things, it fucking works.
I fucking love it, dude. And I've heard, I think I heard this from Ed Milet. I'm not sure if you follow Ed Milet. That confidence is built from the promises that you keep to yourself. And I fucking resonate with that so much because... And it goes back to the accountability thing, like telling other people, now you're like, fuck, if I don't do it, like they know.
You're right.
And I don't want them to know that I didn't do it.
Yeah. And I mean, I find that most people don't do that, and most people don't talk about it and say it to people. And it's just because exactly what you said, they're not going to keep that promise to themselves. Right. But, at some point, hopefully everybody, right? Like for me, I had to just kind of hit rock bottom in my career to be like, okay, this is one last go, and this is the best thing I ever did, because it's blown up to this, and
only
we're
up from here.
Yeah, we're gonna keep rolling, dude.
What do you do for fun?
Oh shit, fucking sell real estate, buy real estate. No, I have an amazing girlfriend. Jay touched on this in his interview, and I could not agree with it more. So I've been with my girlfriend Cassandra now for 5 years. It's been a fucking shit show. Any fight we've ever had, any issue we've ever had has 100% been my fault and my doing. Like, I have the perfect girl, dude. Like, the absolute perfect girl.
She waiting on a ring?
Oh, fuck yeah, she is. Bleep this part. No, I'm just kidding. No, she is. And it'll be coming for sure. But with that being said, I mean, that's what I do for fun. I mean, it's so much of my success, man, is from her. Like when we first got together, that was right when I was failing in real estate. So it's super cool. Like she was with
stuck
me.
by your side.
Yeah, she was with me, dude, when I was fucking living in my mom's basement, not selling houses and driving a 2000 Toyota Camry. Right?
Nothing wrong with a Camry, by the way.
No, fuck no. I love my Camry. Dude, believe me, I would still be driving that car right now.
It's a great car. Lasts forever.
The best. And, but yeah, I mean, dude, it's just, that's what I do for fun. I spend time with her. We have 2 dogs. We go on vacations. I have fucking amazing friends, amazing family. So I spend as much time as I can with them. But that's about it, man. I'm a pretty simple guy. I'm big into sports, right? So I fucking will plop down with my laptop and watch anything that is
Bills
on.
fan?
Yeah. Fuck yeah. I sold James Cook his house.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. Super cool dude. Yeah. But yeah, huge Bills fan. So we go to a lot of games and shit like that. But yeah, no, I'm pretty simple, man. We're definitely big restaurant people. So we go out to eat quite a bit, and Buffalo's a big drinking town, and I obviously used to bartend. So it's always nice going back. Like Cass and I actually met at a bar that we were both working at.
Nice.
And so it's always nice. Like we'll go out and kind of still see everybody that still works there and still goes out there. So it's always fun. But yeah, no, super simple, man.
Love it, man.
Crazy.
And you find so much passion in your work, and I do too. Like,
I mean, it's just, that's having a partner that's accepting of that, because I told her when we first got together, I'm like, listen, like I work like a psychopath and I will not turn it off. And I'm the type of person where unless you're telling me something's wrong, I'm going to assume everything is fine.
Yeah.
Because I'm the type where if something is wrong, I am going to tell you right away. And you are not going to guess and you are going to know. So I told her, I was like, listen, like if there's ever time when you need me to kind of pull back with work and be more present, like I need you to do that because I will not pick up on those cues. Like you need to communicate with me. And she just does such a good job. And she, I think, sees all of the good that comes out of me from the work that I do. And I truly love the work that I do, not just from buying houses, not just from selling houses, but truly from running the team. Like that's where I get so much of my joy, is having these people that trust me, trust the leadership on our team to come and be a part of it. But to watch them grow, right? Like to watch Brandon go from bartending super nervous to make the jump, makes the jump, and he's knocking it out of the park. Like you can't fucking beat that. That's a feeling that like you unless you've done that for somebody, you can't relate to that, right? And that's what I've fallen in love with, and that to me is why the team has continued to grow, is just because it's like I want to bring on as many people as I possibly can that fit our culture, and I want to do the very best I can to change their life, right? Because if we can get them good at real estate, right, now we can teach them a thing or two about rental properties. And now they're buying rental properties, right? And now their life is getting obnoxiously better than it was, not just for themselves, but their partner or their kids or their future kids, right? And that to me is just like the game changer side of it. It's fucking dope.
I'm about to run through a brick wall, right? Because I know so much of that stuff like is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I actually pulled my brother out of college. He dropped out of college for me to come work with me. And now he is the best videographer probably in New York State.
Yeah, your videos are fucking unreal.
He's insane.
They're sick.
He's better than anything I could ever produce at this point. And being able to give people the opportunity to follow their passion and be creative and grow in directions they want to grow, that gives me so much fucking fulfillment. Dude, and on the like rental property side of things, I want to see them. I want to educate them with finances and passive income and all that stuff. And I want to see them just crush it.
I mean, dude, how do you beat it, man? It's like, I've always thought about this, and I mean, it's probably fucking weird, but like, it's always resonated me, like, if you were to die tomorrow, right? Like how many people would show up for that, and how many people would actually be impacted by that? And I am trying to live a life that I think that would be a very busy wake and funeral. You know what I mean?
Around the corner.
But seriously, because at the end of the day, like that to me is what your life's purpose is, right? Like how many people can you actually impact?
Yeah.
And, so that's like what our mission is and what our motto is. And it's, it's a fun fucking journey, man. And I'm very thankful for the life that we're living.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about goals for the future. Where do you see the Blueprint team, your real estate portfolio? Let's just say next 5 years, where are you guys going to be?
So how do I put this? I talked to Brandon about this. So I'm a big believer in setting goals for personal goals and things like that. What I have found, and I don't necessarily think many people will agree with this, is when it comes to the team and the number of agents or the sales volume or the units or buying rental properties, right? I don't like to put a number on it because let's go to the agent side of things, right? Like how many agents are we going to have? How many sales are we going to have, right? Well, I don't like to put a number on it, right? Because let's say I say that my goal is by the end of the year to be at 65 agents or 50 agents, whatever it is. If I don't hit that, I'm nervous that I'm going to put myself into this rat race of like, I got to hire, right? And that's such a mistake. And there's been people that have asked to join the Blueprint team that put up very good numbers, but they're not welcomed on our team strictly because they are not a good cultural fit for our team. Yeah. I do not hire based off sales volume. I do not hire based off of, work ethic. A part of me does, but for me, it is, do you fit our culture and are you a good person?
Character.
That's how I hire. So for me, I will hire fucking 0 people if I meet 0 people that fit this culture. And I will be perfectly happy with that, and that is a win. I will hire 50 fucking people if I come across 50 agents that fit our culture, that are similar mindset, that can fit the brand and will help build the brand. So I wouldn't say that there's like necessarily a number in mind that I have. People often ask like, how big are you going to grow this thing? I mean, we'll go as big as
Do you want to go outside Western New York?
There are talks of that. There are ideas with that. For right now, I am just so focused on the 43 people that are in that room that I think that if we were to enter another market, it would be somebody that could play a leadership role, and it would be kind of their baby, if that makes sense. It would not be me necessarily going and manning that charge, because so much of what we do is so special because anybody that's been in the office around our team, like when we got to Hunt, they showed us like 7 different private offices and they're like, these are all yours? And I'm like, no. And they're like, what do you mean? And they had like these 2 big conference rooms, kind of like this, probably like close to 2 of these rooms, right? I'm like, I want those. And they're like, well, where are you going to sit? And I'm like, we're all going to sit in a big fucking table and we're going to work. Because that's so much of what helped me early on in my career is sitting at a round table with some of the best agents in Western New York and just listening to them and watching them. And a lot of this career is monkey see, monkey do, right? Like go and watch what all the top agents in Western New York are doing. It's all very similar shit. They just do it all the time, right? Yeah. But same thing with your question about like, how many rentals and things like that. Ryan and I, I think I can speak for both of us and any of my real estate partners. I mean, any deal that makes sense that we can fund, we will buy. Every single one of them. We do not pass on properties that make sense, but it's also a game of, right, like the liquidity side of things. So I don't like to put numbers on it just because I find that when it comes to hiring agents and when it comes to buying houses, you make mistakes if you feel like you need to get to a certain number, if that makes sense. It
does.
Yep. And that's kind of my biggest thing. So like my goal for the future is to get all of our agents to hit the goals that they've placed. That's my goal for the next 5 years.
And that's,
bring on the people that make sense and have every single person on our team hitting the goal that they want to hit. That's my goal here.
Yeah, and when you're focused on that, volume, numbers, money, it'll come.
Right, and that's, that's probably the biggest thing is I think a lot of people have looked at our team's growth and they just think like, Sean is a recruiting, hiring junkie. And it's not that, man. Like I will invite you guys up for one of our holiday parties or like one of our Blueprint parties. Yeah. I mean, there's no clicks. There's no like cattiness. Like you will see 40 people that are having the time of their fucking lives and they love each other.
I love that.
And that's the key to running a successful team is we have 40 something people that they fucking care about each other. Our group chat goes off all day and everybody is helping everybody. Everybody is covering showings, working open houses. Like we run as a big tribe. And I find that when you work that way, magical shit happens. And that's why we're at where we're at right now.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite book besides Rich Dad Poor Dad? Any one book, maybe recently that's are you a big reader?
Like audiobooks.
Audiobooks?
Yeah, I don't have time to sit down and read, but audiobooks.
Big Tony Robbins guy.
Huge Tony Robbins guy. I think everybody should listen to him to some capacity. The dude knows what he's doing, right? Is some of his shit corny? Sure. Is some of his shit rah? Like, believe me, my My mentor, Joel Husfar, awesome fucking dude. I owe him the world. Should have shouted him out much sooner in this episode. But he put me onto that stuff. And I remember when he told me that, one of Tony's keys to life, it really is his key to life, is the key to living is giving. And when you start to give people time, resources, whatever it is, you give to them and you actually don't expect or want anything in return, the universe truly does reward you in unbelievable ways.
It's magic.
And when he said that to me, I looked at him and said, get the fuck out of my face, bro.
I don't want that
I said, what the fuck are you talking about, right?
Yeah.
And then that was a part of when I burned the boats. Like, I took that and I just trusted it. And I will never stop doing that. And that's why we have 40 people on our team. And we've lost maybe 2 agents, and it just wasn't good fits at the time for those people and for us. But we have 40 agents that have been with us and it's stuck with us because we are a team of giving back to each other, right? And we don't expect anything in return for it. And so anything Tony Robbins I'll read. I listen to more of his stuff than reading his books.
The thing with Tony is, and you touched on it, he can be a turnoff to some people because of the corniness.
100%.
And that. But when you go deep and you actually you're like, this dude's he knows what he's doing.
It's fucking genius, man. I mean, people are going to think I'm fucking crazy, but he has breathing exercises where you can be exhausted. You can do those and you're wide awake. Like if I have I'm not like a super, super early morning guy. And if I have to get up in the morning, it is not my favorite thing in the world. But like I will crank one of those out on the way to meet a client. And now all of a sudden, like, okay, I feel like I'm actually ready to go and I'm not sleeping through the showing. You know what I mean? So anything like that, I'm trying to think if there's really a book that I would say other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, I fucking live and die by that book.
Have you been to any Tony's events?
I haven't. I would really like to do one. It's just tough to get away, man. I mean, that's the hardest thing in this industry right now, especially with the team and everything going on, is it is so tough to travel just because it's...
Bring the whole team.
Yeah, we're getting there. If we have a couple more good years, I would love to do something like that. A big fucking Vegas trip with the Blueprint team.
Yeah.
They could do a movie. It'd be like the Hangover part.
Well, we should come with you and make like a documentary out of it.
That'd be
sick. That'd be really sick.
Oh, goodness. That'd be awesome. Yeah, no, I don't have a book recommendation. If one comes to mind, I will let you know, but nothing other than Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think everybody should read that book, man. I've probably read it 100 times.
I agree. Any parting wisdom you want to leave our audience with, that young entrepreneur who's maybe in their early 20s, they're trying to get things started? What do you got for that person?
I think a lot of this has been all about like go, 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 go. I think the number one mistake I'm seeing younger people make is they want it all right fucking now. And one of the best things that I learned from an early age, and I still do to this day, as much as it doesn't seem like we're slowing down or going slow in any capacity, but it's just get to the next step, right? And just the biggest problem I see is, right, everybody focuses on all 10 steps all at once, and now they're all over the fucking place, right? What I did for a very long time to get where I'm at is I just focused on step 2. And once I got step 2 down, I focused on step 3. And I just took my time and mastered the craft of it, right? But it was because you have to be laser focused on 1 or maybe 2 things at a time. And it's when you focus on everything all at once, you're fucked. You're completely and utterly fucked. And it's just understanding, like I said, I mean, don't get me wrong, at 22 years old, I wanted everything that I have and more now. But at 29, achieving what I've been able to achieve and living the life that I'm able to live, the entire reason that's possible is because I stayed laser focused, one piece at a time. And we started the team, we brought on agents, and one by one, we just built it, right? And yes, now it has snowballed, but people are being attracted to come on the team under Nicole. People are joining the team and being attracted. So it's just created this really beautiful synergy that has just kind of launched our growth, right? But it's just understanding, like, kids coming right out of college, 21, 20, like, dude, you're so young. Like, you're so fucking young.
We're still young, bro.
That's what I mean. Like, and that's what it goes into, is just, I feel like these kids have such a false sense of, like, needing to conquer everything all right now.
And I think social media plays a big part
in that. It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I get it, right? Like, it's hard not to look at social media and fall into that trap, right? And it wastes so much of your time, when if you just focus on the next step of whatever that goal is or whatever that career path is, right? And just chip away at it. Once you find it and once you find that first win, the second win comes even faster. The third one comes faster, and it just builds, you know, to the point where we're bringing on all these agents. We're building this colossal team. We're buying all of these properties. I've bought more properties this year than I did like the last 3 years all combined, right? Like that didn't just happen overnight. That's been something that's been growing and coming to the table for the years that I've been putting in the work, right? So I think that that'd be my biggest piece of advice is like slow down. And I mean, here's the other thing, like enjoy yourself.
Yes.
Because you're going to be fucking 29 before you know it.
Yes.
You're going to have an awesome girlfriend that you would change nothing about, but like life changes, right? Like the life that I live at this point right now is so fucking different than the life I lived at 20 and 21. And don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change it for the world. She would kill me if I even hinted that I would change it for the world. But with that being said, it's like, enjoy that time, right? And I try to remind the younger kids on our team, especially, like, you know, they'll beat themselves up. I've got some really hungry 22, 23, 24-year-olds. And they're just so fucking hard on themselves. And it's like, dude, go out with your friends. Enjoy yourself. Like,
you don't get this time back.
You don't, right? Yeah. And I can tell you, like, I took that time when I was 20, 21, 22, 23. And I think that that's a big reason why at 29 years old, I wouldn't go back, but I also have no regrets, right? Like I enjoyed my life at that time, but there's also that kind of key decision you make, right? Like you either live that life a little too much, or you have and are able to have kind of that balancing act of having fun, but also working your balls off.
And I think life in general, I was just listening to a podcast yesterday that really touched on this, is life is a constant balance between enjoying the present moment and continuing to work and build towards your goals, because it's very hard, and I'm guilty of this, of spending so much of your time and energy in the present thinking about what's next, thinking about the future, when the days are just passing you by. You're getting older every single day. So this year especially, being at the end of my 20s, I just pause and try to take those moments during the day and think, I'm not going to get this time back. I want to enjoy it. I want to be present with my wife. I want to do the things I want to do now. So just keeping that in mind. It's
so important too. And Jay touched on this a lot, right? Like men's mental health and men's being vulnerable. Like I have had not issues, but like I've definitely had my fair share of like mental health. Like,
I think we all have.
Right. Yeah. So especially when you're becoming an entrepreneur and running your business, right? Like it is fucking horrible. Right. And I tell people, like, one of the best years of my entire life, one of the most happiest years of my entire life was that first year that I sold $6 million and made 6 figures for the first time. Fast forward 2 years before I started the team, I had 3x'd that income, close to 4x that income in that year. I was fucking miserable and depressed because I was not living an actual life. I was a fucking psychotic robot realtor that was literally doing nothing but doing real estate nonstop, was not living life in a healthy way. And that's why I always talk like so highly of the team, because it was starting that team was the best thing that I've ever done, because showing up for other people is, for me, a lot easier than always showing up for yourself. You know what I mean? Like I can kind of coast through with myself, but when you have to be on for other people, like it makes you become the best version of yourself, in my opinion. And so much of starting that team helped me get out of that funk. And it just goes for the younger people out there, right? Like I made 6 figures for the first time, happier than a pig in shit. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot of money. Massive amount of money 2-3 years later, miserable as fuck. Abso-fucking-lutely miserable. So this idea that you're going to make more money and you're going to be happy, I promise you that if you don't balance out life and spend a lot of time on career and work, but you don't also spend time living life with your family, with your friends, with your significant other, you will have a fuck ton of money and you will be a miserable fuck. And that's what'll happen, you know. And that would probably be the biggest piece of advice I'd give to these kids is enjoy your time, enjoy your life. Don't get me wrong, work your fucking ass off, make as much money as you can, but do not let that take you away from living life, right? And I think that'd be the biggest piece of advice I'd give to them.
I don't see a better way to end the show than on that note. So, Sean, with that, where can people connect with you?
Facebook, Instagram. My Instagram handle is just at Sean Mattrey. Facebook, you just search my name and add me as a friend.
Beautiful.
That's where I'm at right now. certainly need to do a better job. I know TikTok is huge, YouTube, all that stuff, but that'll come. I need your help with that stuff.
We'll help you with that for sure, brother.
Definitely.
Well, guys, I hope you found value in this episode. Again, please share the show with your friends. If you have an entrepreneur who's just getting started in their career, this is valuable stuff. This is stuff that I wish I had in my early 20s, and that's the objective of the show, is to get this message out to as many people as possible. So
yeah, and if anybody sees this and wants to reach out, questions, calls, I do this shit all the time, as far as like, I'll have random people call me and just be like, what do you think of this? And they're not like, oh, totally, like they follow me on Instagram or something like that. But I'm always down to have those conversations. Like I said, if you help people and give to people, the world rewards you in many ways. So anybody that wants any advice, I'm always here.
Amen, brother.
Cool.
Guys, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode. Peace.